Welcome to another short series of videos for Fantasy Grounds. This time we're going to look at the combat tracker, which is really at the heart of the program, and it's necessary for all combat aspects of whatever game system that you're playing. We're looking at 5e here, but the principles will be the same for pretty much any rule set that you're using. So this is the DM screen here. We've got a couple of players that have joined us, and we need to set this up so that we can proceed with any combats, etc. So we need to open up the combat tracker from the little button up at the top there. Nothing very interesting without anybody on it, but you can see that there are some details up at the top, some symbols and column names, and down the bottom here we've got a couple of more symbols, a menu option, and we've got the round counter as well as some faction icons. So our first task is to get the player characters onto the combat tracker. We can do this by dragging from the top left here and just dropping the portrait onto the combat tracker. We can also do it from the PC or the character selection window. We can drag Iona here on from there, and it effectively is the same thing as dragging from the top left. Now that we've got some player characters on the combat tracker, we can see the information going along the line here as to what we're seeing. And the first thing we see is the character's token, then their name, and then we've got a column for initiative, one for hit points, temporary hit points, and wounds. And you'll notice that all of these have a little chain symbol next to them, and that means that they are linked to the character sheet on the for the player's character sheet. So the initiative, hit points, temporary wounds, or temporary hit points and wounds are all linked to the player's character sheet from the combat tracker. The next column shows a faction button, and you can click through these, or the DM can click through these. The player characters are automatically set by default to being friendly, but if you wanted to make them neutral or hostile or belonging to a faction, then you can click through the various options and you can change the faction on the combat tracker of either the player characters or an NPC. I mean, perhaps an NPC might start off as being neutral or friendly, and then during some conversation or whatever, they become hostile. So you can change the faction at any time by clicking on this row of buttons. Next to that are 5 symbols, and each one is a different representation of different things to do with combat. The first one here is targets, and if we open this up, then we can see, or we would see, a list of icons here of the player's character. If they have targeted any NPC or anything else, you would see the little symbol there. The DM also has this option here of drag onto a new target, which means that they can simply drag and drop this onto a target, and as you can see, Shadow now has Iona targeted. If we close this, we can actually see it in writing. And then there is this other little symbol here, which is to clear targets, so the Dungeon Master can clear the targets there by just clicking on that, and all the targets that this character has targeted will be untargeted. Our next button here is the attributes button, and opening this up will tell you the attributes of the player character, and notice again that these are all linked to the player character sheet. The DM can make checks from here just simply by double clicking. So if you wanted to force a check, a dexterity check from Shadow, you can just double click here and you can see that Shadow's made a dexterity check along with her appropriate bonus for her dexterity. Next to that is the combat button, and again this just gives some information about the character. You can see that their initiative bonus is a +4, you can see what their armor class is and also what their speed is, and then there's a button here which shows whether or not the target has used the reaction or not. So if Shadow here used her reaction at some point, the DM can click this button to show that the reaction has been used, as a reminder that they've already used the reaction and don't have another one this round. The next button is the space and reach, and in order to demonstrate that, we need to have the character on a map to really show what this means. So let's open up a map here, and then we're going to put the player characters onto the map. There's two ways we can do this. We can drag and drop them individually onto the map from the just grabbing the symbol here, the little icon to the left, and dropping it on the map. Or if you want to put them all on the map at once, you can grab this green symbol here for the friendly, because all the PCs are friendly, and just drop that onto the map, and then reposition once you've got them there. So we were interested in Shadow here. If we zoom in a little bit, we can see Shadow down here, and you can see that she's got a green square, or the green square covers 5 foot. This map grid is 5 foot, so she's filling up the entire square with the green grid, or the green underlay. And if we mouse over, we see a black square appears over Shadow, and this shows Shadow's reach. So the green square is effectively showing Shadow's size, which is medium, and the black square is showing her reach with her melee weapon, which is 5 foot. We can change this in here. I mean, for example, Shadow might become enlarged due to drinking a potion or something like that, and she may become a large size rather than medium. So 5 is medium, 10 is large, and when we change the number to 10 here, we can see right away that the green screen has, or the green underlay has increased. And we can see now that it's now taking up 4 squares rather than just the 1. You can change the size of the icon if you want by holding down CTRL and using the middle mouse button to make the token fit into the green square however way you want. So that's a way, or a method of changing the size of a PC or an NPC, anything that's on the combat tracker. You can also make it smaller, of course. And then the reach button does pretty much the same thing. As we see, we mouse over Shadow again, her reach is still 5 feet. But if we change this to 10, maybe she's got a weapon that has the reach property. When we mouse over again, we can now see that her reach is 10 feet. So that means that any enemies which would be in the black squares or in the grey squares surrounding her would be a target, or a possible target for her reach weapon. And the final box here is for effects, and if we open that up, we see there's nothing in this one for Shadow. If we have a look at, let's say, Daeneric's character sheet here, we'll see Daeneric has the Dwarven Resilience effect. And if we wanted to apply that, we can click this button here, and it now applies the effect to Daeneric. And if we open this up, we can get information about what the Dwarven Resilience actually is, and the effect is being applied. So we don't need to have this open to see the effect, we can see it otherwise, but we can open this up. Now, of course, the Dungeon Master can, using this green button here, add an effect directly to the combat tracker. So if there was something else that the Dungeon Master wanted to do, we could actually put this in directly by just typing something in here. And this would give Daeneric some resistance to slashing damage. And we can type it in. It's not recommended you type things in here directly, but it is possible to do. We'll just get rid of that for the moment. You can also see that there's a little cluster of icons here, and this gives the Dungeon Master control over these effects and what happens with the effects. And the first one, little green on, shows that the effect is active, and we can click that and it'll go to skip one use. So that means that for this turn Daeneric's Dwarven Resilience won't work. We can click it again, which basically turns the effect off. So although the effect is still there, it's off, and so it doesn't appear and nothing happens. So if Daeneric was hit with a poison damage, then he would take the poison, the full amount of poison damage, because his effect has been turned off. And then we can click again to make it active. The other button down the bottom here, it shows visible, and if we mouse over it says visible to all. If we click it, then the effect is visible only to the DM, and if we click it again it comes back to visibility to all. And then this other button here shows that the effect takes effect for all rolls. That's any roll that goes against Daeneric, the effect will take effect. We can change that to one action, which means that the effect will only apply to the next action, or to the next roll, or it'll apply to once each. Now, those of you who know your effects will see that that basically is emulating the way effects work and the expiry that you can set for effects. But you can control that here. Sort of granularly, you can change the way effects work using these buttons. Now, another interesting thing you can do here is that if you wanted to apply an effect that was hidden from the players, then you can do so from the effects dialog. So let's suppose that a character maybe became cursed. We can put in, let's say we give them disadvantage to attack rolls. We can add the effect in here. We can give it a duration, and if we click this little eye icon here to make it invisible, so we've got visible or invisible. When we apply this effect now to Daeneric, you'll see that it automatically applies to GM visible only. So we're only seeing this effect as the DM. The effect is on and it's active, and it's applying to all rolls, but only the GM can see it. If we have a look at the player's combat tracker, we can see that only his Dwarven Resilience effect is showing up here, and the cursed one isn't. So this is how you would apply an effect directly to the combat tracker invisibly, so that the players are not aware that the effect is taking, or they have such an effect on them. And the last thing I want to show you for this video is that the buttons up at the very top here duplicate all of these, but what happens is if you click on them, it opens up the thing for all of the players or NPCs that are on the combat tracker, which you probably don't really need and you don't really want to do, but the option is there should you wish to do so. Right, I think that's probably enough for this video, and we'll continue on with our look at the combat tracker in the next. Thanks for watching. Cheers for now.